1,500 people live here in Skull Valley, and I believe it's mostly ranching. You see these massive cottonwoods and water coming through. So we have a cafe there, slash store. You saw coming in here how expansive the landscapes are. This is True West. Valley Fire Department, post office here. Let's see what we can get into. I think that might be it, but I saw some background, so we'll check those out. But here we go. You can just see a bunch of branching, horses. These are train tracks. Now, I did my research last night, and where we're going, Baghdad, all of the copper back in the day came out on this train line here. Skull Valley was important because of this line right here going out to Prescott, as the locals say it, Prescott, if you're from out of town, and then off to Phoenix, I believe. Okay, so you have some new homes here. This is a different Arizona, that's for sure. No, it doesn't even feel like desert down here. I'm sure it's generations of families over the years set up their life here, and it just goes down to the kids, the grandkids. It keeps going generation after generation. And from the looks of it, I mean, there's some nice homes. You can make a decent living ranching in these parts. Turkey vultures. That's about as far as we're going to get. All right, guys, let's turn around. That might be Skull Valley. That might be it. So let's see if we can talk to someone at that store there.
It's the only place in town that's open. The owner is also the owner of Iron Springs Ranch. So they own 5,500 acres down the street.
Okay.
They bought the restaurant. They sell their meat here.
There's nothing forever going that direction.
Yeah.
Except Baghdad, where I'm going.
You're going to Baghdad. Baghdad is a mining town owned by Freeport. I know a little bit because my niece lives there. But yeah, there's a golf course, post office. There's 3 restaurants at least that I'm aware of right now, and it's a great school where my niece is going.
So just its own world.
Yep. And look at here. This is the other Claire.
This is Claire.
Yeah.
Wow.
How are you?
Claire, my name's Peter.
Nice to meet you.
You too. I'm making a video on the area. I just want to highlight what you got going on. You're from here?
Well, yeah, we live in Skull Valley. We have a ranch about 2 miles up the road there. Skull Valley is absolutely amazing. It's like your typical rural community. Very few buildings, as you can see. This was the old general store.
Right.
And it shut down about 8 years ago. It's now owned by a family. They do some manufacturing out of it, but it's just a beautiful historic building. And then our store, Forge, was the old gas station. Originally, it was actually a forge. It was built by a blacksmith. It's just amazing. The community here, if you like that sort of old-fashioned community, this is it. I mean, this is it. Our little central area. We've got a train that comes through here 5 or 6 times a day. The old railroad actually used to run through our ranch and go on up to Prescott. We still find all of the old railroad kind of nails and stuff on our ranch, and we're kind of
Because that's when all the copper came out of Baghdad, right?
Yeah.
Prescott.
But it was also a passenger train, and it would take the businessmen from down in Phoenix, and they'd come up for the weekend and join their wives and children at Iron Springs Camp. So it has that history as well, and that stopped in 1968. That was the last time that ran.
Is there still sort of that pioneering feel to this place?
There really is. I mean, it's a ranching community. A lot of very authentic cowboys. We're a regenerative ranch, which a lot of people are familiar with, but it's kind of beyond organic. So very beyond organic, very, very clean, focusing on soil health, focusing on nutrient-dense grasses, which then give you much more nutrient-dense food. The omega-3, omega-6 ratio on the beef is different, so it's
you're totally geeked out on this.
We are so geeked out on it. It's amazing.
Okay, it's going to be a silly question, but
Yeah.
it's grass-fed, grass-finished.
Yes, 100%.
If it's not grass-finished,
Yeah.
you get it, right?
Yeah, exactly. There is a huge difference. I know a lot of people like grain-finished beef, but from a nutrition standpoint, from an anti-inflammatory standpoint, grass-finished is 100% better.
Can people buy your meat anywhere in the country, or do they have to be on their own?
No, we just stay with local.
Okay.
That's kind of our thing. We like to stay local, so we're in a couple local restaurants. We sell it in We sell at local farmers markets. We are taking it to Phoenix, so we'll be in a slightly bigger area. We still have cattle coming through the street occasionally, sometimes not on purpose. My husband Ryan's more stand from the ranch, ties it up, comes in for a meal. You know, it's just very kind of quintessential old American.
Can I show the inside?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. But you got the side-by-sides coming out.
We do, lots of side-by-sides, lots of bikers, lots of cyclists.
I didn't expect this, to be honest. I thought it would have been way more rustic.
Yeah, we are, people don't expect too much, so when they do come, they're surprised. They walk in the door and they're surprised at what we've done in here.
Oh yeah, nice. Beautiful. Are you behind the decor?
Yeah, myself and my contractor kind of put together the idea. If you look over here, we branded a lot of the.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of the historic branches branded in here. We called it the station brand because this was once a gas station, so we kept the station brand feel. We've got George Pippin artwork on the walls because he was local in Skull Valley. His son still comes in here. So we have his artwork. He kindly lets us exhibit it and sell prints. There was a huge battle between two Indian tribes here, and so there was so many bones and skulls in the fields when they were setting up. The original pioneers were setting up, and so that's why.
It's what year do you think? Yeah, 1880 something. Okay.
Yeah.
Two tribes, the Yavapai and Colorado.
Tonawanda work here. They're in the south right now, right?
They weren't here, they would come here, trade, yeah,
And then when the settlers came in, they saw all the skulls and they called it Skull Valley. Okay, so it wasn't between the cavalry and the natives, it was native on native. Oh, okay.
That's what it was to begin with.
They're all fighting each other. Oh,
yeah, the Yavapai were kind of sophisticated, you know, they had bows and arrows and stuff like that. And Tonawanda, the big people, they kind of each other up. So,
yeah. They're like these, right. They're like the Samoans of the natives.
yes, and so the Yavapai did a very brutal raid on the Tonawanda, so they said, okay, we're gonna get. And they set up a trap, and this is where they trapped them. That's why.
Interesting. And you're the pastor here?
Hey, there's two of us.
Are we the other ones walking in?
Okay.
Right outside.
All right. So you grew up in Skull Valley.
Born and raised.
Your mother, grandmother. Well, you're so young with me, I can tell. Great. So how is it out here these days?
It's getting busy. It used to be much quieter.
Okay.
More people going.
How do you feel about it?
I think it's inevitable. And I think it's perfectly great.
And you grew up here, never left.
I did, but you come back usually.
It brought you back.
It did, so I grew up here on Dave, I grew up with them, my parents were in the military.
Oh, okay.
So I lived here. I did the very typical small town thing, grew up, and hit 17, 18, I was like, peace out. And I left to college, and then thought I was gonna go marry some city boy, ended up marrying a Chino boy, which is just about 40 minutes from here.
With a Chino boy.
Chino Valley, which is
Oh,
on the other side of Preston, but it's another kind of small town.
So you didn't go city slicker, you went Chino boy.
I went and found somebody who loved my childhood home as much as I do, and not more. Some didn't. So when we both went to nursing school, and we're nurses now in Valley, we'll see anything, ICU, all of that, and we had kids, it was like, well, it's time to go home. So now we're back, and he works at the local VA up here.
Okay, nice.
I actually just left bedside last week, and I'm gonna be a school nurse down here now. So we have a tiny little school, it's a great school, it's a school I went to. And I got
How many kids at the school here?
right now we're 8, I think. But it varies through the year. We have school, they were 18.
Okay, so it's growing.
Yeah, it's
That's cool.
great. I mean, you can go down there and see them, but the gates are usually open.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, thank you all. Yes, I appreciate it.
Generator.
You know, I'd love to hear any video.
Well, my husband's side is. We watch pretty religiously, so.
Oh, thank you.
But you wanna check.
There
something
is
out,
a
let me know.
small generator also.
Our house was built in 1962. This used to be one property, and the lady that owned this general store at the time is the one who.
I will
the
give you a
original builder.
$20 tip.
Who's this guy?
This is one of the first kitchen for and it's been for a very long time.
I came into town and I was just saying to the camera, you know, I bet it's just generational, generational, generational.
It can be, and it's an interesting dynamic down here. Enough, you three. It's enough. Well,
Okay, you're an A-rated school
an
district?
A-rated school district. When the lady that built this house that we now live in, she built the windows purposely to be able to keep an eye on the store because
Oh,
that's
nice,
her.
right?
And then this is one of the older houses here, unmovable. It came out of California redwood that was brought over on the train in the late 1800s. We're not sure the exact date it was built, but it was somewhere in the late 1800s.
Is anyone living there now?
No.
Okay.
No, the only things living there now are chickens hiding to hatch baby chicks and squirrels.
Is this all your compound here?
All ours, yep.
Oh, this is cool.
102 acres.
Yep.
My grandparents moved in here in 1980. Actually, it's a fun story. When you're driving, you might drive a road called Yarnell Hill, and it's that way. My grandfather worked for ADOT building roads. He built the road coming up. It was a 7-year project. When they lived in Prescott, because my grandfather was born and raised in Prescott, and he would drive by this house every single day for 7 years on his commute. And when they put it up for sale, he bought it the same day. Went home and told my grandma, bought the house, we're moving. And they moved down here. But it was in August or September, right after the monsoons. And we went over, it was green islands.
And that's it right there. That's the action.
That's downtown. Don't blink, you'll miss it.
And then we're out.
I just need to be letting, I'll explain everything later, but.
All right, guys, we got it. Here. I was driving around and waved to one guy, didn't wave back.
Yeah.
Didn't think it would be a camera-friendly experience. And then this is how it works. Run into the right people, show you around. Oh, this is beautiful.
Okay, all right, cool. I'll explain everything later. Okay, fine. So this is our little museum.
Oh, this is great.
It actually usually open on Sundays, but we just had our Pi Social last week, which is the biggest fundraiser they do for that. That's really the best day for you to come get all the history.
Oh, yeah. So how do you like living here after coming back from the city?
I wouldn't change it for anything. I always tell people we're kind of like we're basically a Hallmark movie with a little bit more drama.
Is there drama here? Seriously?
Well, yeah. It's a small town. Word gets around fast. It's one of those typical things. If something happens to someone in Prescott before they even get home down the mountain, the rest of the town probably knows about it. So.
Wow, this is beautiful. Look at that cottonwood.
This is the school.
Can you stand in there?
Yeah.
I'm sure how big this cottonwood is. That's.
It's 648, so that's probably the school was built.
Jesse, that's, I think, the biggest cottonwood I've ever seen.
Well, you haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna take you to the biggest one.
You got a bigger one than this?
Yeah. It actually is like registered as the biggest one. This is the original school building. We just did a whole redo. Other than.
Oh, this is great. The old wooden floor.
Yeah. They really did a great job. So this building, this is like our new early United Learning Center now. So our preschool and our kindergarten is in here now. But when I was young, this was all. So this was my classroom.
And you're not that old.
I'm gonna be 41 this time.
Okay, so this is your school.
This is my school. This was kindergarten through, but when I was in kindergarten through 3rd grade, and then that room over there was 4th grade through whatever grade we had.
And you're going through 3rd grade here.
We lived in this whole room. So the irony, and a little sentimental, this is my daughter's desk, and this was where my desk was too, when I was in this classroom. So this is it, but we got flooring. We did a lot to get this redone and ready for the kids, and we just had enough people come back, move back in, and then we've got the enrollment to,
So there's more of that trend, people doing what you did?
I think so.
Okay.
Especially, I think COVID probably had a lot to do with it too.
All right, guys, I want to take.
Honestly, I tried to embarrass him, but here's the truth. This was his pick. It's made from 340 GSM of Bear Steak. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Andrew Branca Show. I am, of course, attorney Andrew Branca, and I'm so glad you're here to join me in talking about the Insurrection Act. Insurrection Act. The great and powerful President Donald J. Trump is about to become even more powerful. And the best way to start this show, I think, is with this little movie clip right here. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. What?
Oh, Daniel, we won again. This is good. But what is best in mind? The open step. 3 forwards. Titans at your wrist. Weight in your hair. Wrong! Conan, what is best in mind? Crush your enemies. See them driven before you. They hear the lamentation of the women.
Yeah. That is good. That is good. I love it. I love it. That's what we're dealing with here, with the great and powerful Trump. Trump, what is best in life? To crush the progressives, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their femboys. With each passing day of ongoing lawless violence from the progressive fascists and Antifa thugs against the legitimate federal authority of our democratically elected federal government, with each additional lawless and feckless obstructionist ruling from an unelected black-robed tyrannical inferior federal district trial court judge, the great and powerful President Donald J. Trump, comes another day close to dropping the ultimate hammer on these fascist rebels, and that hammer is the Insurrection Act of 1807, signed into law by none other but then President Thomas Jefferson, and used by roughly half of all American presidents throughout our history to put down unlawful rebellion and ensure the safety and security of our great nation. And in today's show, my buddy Shipwreck Crew did me a big favor. I'm going to read and respond to a great column he wrote, just published yesterday, on exactly this, on Trump's impending invocation of the Insurrection Act, what it means, how it'll play out. I thought it was a great column, and with his permission, I'll be sharing it with all of you. Of course, the link to that column is in the description, as well as how to find Shipwreck Crew on X. You should definitely follow him and subscribe to his Substack. He does great work. Former federal prosecutor, defender for about over 100 of the January 6th protesters. Really does world-class work. And given that I'm currently on the road, as you can tell by the background here, it's a great help to me to have his column as content for today's show. That'll be the main part of today's show. Of course, after the main show, we have the bonus show. The bonus show is for members of this channel, and you do need to be a member to join us there. I think for today's bonus show, we're going to hop over to X and look at a bunch of the estrogenic hysteria coming from the progressive fascists in social media over yesterday's catastrophic Supreme Court oral arguments over the Voting Rights Act, which you and I spent over 4 hours together yesterday listening to that. But the response, the panicked, justly panicked response of the progressive left to all this is truly entertaining and delicious. And as well, we'll look at some of their responses as they begin to see that the Insurrection Act invocation by Trump isn't just some fairy tale nightmare that could never possibly happen. It's coming, my friends. It's coming. Trump has been laying the groundwork for the Insurrection Act for months, and it gives him more power as the chief executive of our federal government than he's ever been able to deal before, and there's not a damn thing that progressives can do about it. It is, for all practical purposes, utterly immune from judicial review. And it gives Trump the authority to use our military as law enforcement within the borders of the United States. Just wade out into those mobs of Antifa and arrest them. Arrest them as a cop would arrest a common criminal. Great stuff. Great stuff. We're going to have a lot of fun expressing all of that. Hey, a couple super chats here. Let me hit these quick because they are important. EPMJ, $5 says Miami, my sanctuary areas seem like trying to supersede the federal jurisdiction. Can a SCOTUS adjustment or law stop that? Right there for SCOTUS. Thank you very much. I would love to be on SCOTUS. It would be a party every day. I'll tell you that. What can be done about the sanctuary? Sanctuary city, sanctuary state. These are obviously engaged in the harboring of illegal migrants. And the harboring of illegal migrants is a federal felony. In fact, it's a federal felony punishable by execution, not for the migrant, but for the person hiding the migrant. It's always a good opportunity to refresh our recollection on just how serious the penalties for harboring, for providing shelter, aid, comfort to an illegal migrant is. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's pull up the actual statute. And here it is. Here it is. Let me make it bigger so we can all read it together. Federal Statute 8 U.S.C. 1324, bringing in and harboring certain aliens. What is harboring? It's providing shelter and care to an illegal migrant, third world invader. So, anybody who knows that that a person is an alien and harbors them, let's see, Section 3, knowing or in reckless disregard, knew or should have known, that the alien remains in the U.S. in violation of law. Anyone who conceals, harbors, or shields from detection, or attempts to do that, any alien in any place, is violating the statute. And what's the punishment for the statute? Well, if you're doing the harboring for monetary gain, it's a 10-year federal felony. If you're doing the harboring just for free, it's a 5-year federal felony. If you're doing the harboring and the illegal migrant that you harbor places an American citizen in jeopardy, it's a 20-year felony. Doesn't have to hurt anybody, merely has to place an American citizen in jeopardy. And if you're harboring that illegal migrant, and that illegal migrant causes death for an American, then they are punishable by imprisonment for life or execution. So why aren't these sanctuary city and state mayors and governors and bureaucrats being charged under 8 U.S.C. 1324 and notice given to the court that we intend to pursue the death penalty, Your Honor? Because at least some of the illegal migrants that were harbored under these sanctuary policies did in fact go out and kill people. And so that triggers the sentence of death for these politicians engaged in this harboring. I'd like to see it. Oh, here we go. Correct. Court says 8 U.S.C. 1324. Take a look, because all these names are guilty. Yep. $10 super chat. That can see Super Chings, my friend. And of course, that's just what we looked at. Thank you so much. Got a couple new members and gifts. Aaron Clemens, gifted. One of you in the chat, you became a free member of the Andrew Rankin Show. You'll be able to join us for the bonus show part of today's content. Congratulations. Randomly selected by YouTube. I don't have anything to do with that. But thanks to the generosity of Aaron Clemens, it's very kind of you, man. I really appreciate it. And I know whoever got the gift appreciates it as well. Maybe it was Pansy 2.0 that got the gift. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but Pansy 2.0 just became a YouTube member. That's awesome. All right, so let's take a look at what Shipwrecked Crew kindly shared with all of you today. By the way, if you're on X, you should be following him. Shipwrecked Crew, again, former federal prosecutor, and was also a defender of more than 100 of January's presidents. Very, very sharp guy, knows the law extremely well. And he and I have become, I'll call them internet acquaintances, internet buddies, mutual admiration society. And when I saw he did a follow-up on the Insurrection Act yesterday, I asked him if I could share it with all of you. Of course, with my own thoughts and criticisms as appropriate, as I see fit. We're lawyers after all. We can't agree on everything or they will throw us out of the union, out of the guild. But maybe I'll agree with everything. I haven't read the entire column post today. I just know the quality of his work and knew I would want to share it with you. If you're on X, and if you're not on X, you're doing it wrong, folks. It's the closest thing America has to a free speech platform. Not perfect, but the closest thing. And it's where the news really happens. If you're on there, you should follow me at The Branca Show, of course, and Shipwrecked Crew right here at Shipwrecked Crew on X. And look at this, 5 more people just got to be members. Holy cow, thanks to the generosity of Just Rhonda. Just Rhonda gifted 5 attorney payable. You are the best, Rhonda. That is awesome. I love all of you this year, whether you're members or not. But I can't lie, I do love the members just a little bit more. By the way, regardless of whether or not you're a member, if you have not yet subscribed, and there's almost 1,000 that's here right now, if you have not yet subscribed, now would be a great time to do that. Subscribe is dirt cheap. And we just yesterday, thanks to all of you, broke 255,000 subscribers on YouTube, and now we're only 320 away from breaking 256. So let's do it. Our goal for this channel is 1 million subscribers. We get a little bit closer every day, thanks to your support, and I really, really appreciate it. So subscribe, hit the like, thumbs up button, ring the bell to get notification, and all that good stuff. And of course, also consider becoming a member. Again, become a member, and you get to join us for the members only, the bonus part of today's show, and just about every show that we do, limited to members only. The link for members is in the description, and the link to the bonus show should also be in the description. If I remember to add it, it looks like I did. You may be auto-corrected, you may not. I never know that works. But all the links you need are in the description, including the link to Shipwrecked Crew's column here. Am I logged in? It looks like I'm logged in. Okay. So let me make this a bit bigger so it's easier for us to read. Another super chat. Oh, look at this. Look at this. $10. Fancy 2.0. This is my first paid YouTube sub and my first post here. I live in Broadview, Illinois. Illinois and Chicago is a third world cesspool. Well, unfortunately, the progressives have turned much of America into a third world cesspool. As you may know, by my calculation, there are 90 million, not 20, not 30, not 40, 90 million illegal migrant third world invaders currently infesting our nation, consuming scarce American resources like the human locusts they are, healthcare, housing, education, employment, social services, everything. 90 million of them. And that's in addition to another 90 million third world legal, in scare quotes, legal migrants here on various visas, green cards, paperwork, naturalized citizens, not cultural Americans. 180 third world savages in our nation. Everybody needs to go home. And when you have that many third worlders in your country, it begins to look a lot. It begins to look a lot like the third world. All right, Shipwrecked Crew. Again, following it. This is his Substack. I urge you to subscribe to this great one. The Insurrection Act. Officials in blue states and cities are running with scissors. What a great way to put it. Running with scissors, expecting nothing bad will happen from opposing DHS and acts. But the factual preconditions for invoking the Insurrection Act have already been met. Only President Trump's forbearance in asserting his lawful authority has prevented it from happening. And as I'm sure Shipwreck Crew is going to inform us, the powers the Insurrection Act gives to President Trump and the profound limits on the ability, particularly of the federal courts, to check his exercise of authority are profound. Profound powers and profound limits on being checked. All right, let's jump into Shipwreck Crew here. Should I make it a little bigger? Make sure I'm in frame here. How does that look? All right, here we go. Shipwreck Crew. It began mostly as an exercise of virtue signaling when officials in blue states and cities adopted so-called sanctuary state and city policies during the first Trump administration. It was a pledge to not have state and local resources, including law enforcement, be involved in the efforts by the new Trump administration to enforce immigration laws in the aftermath of 8 years of Obama administration policies of lax border enforcement and efforts to document the status of millions of illegal aliens in the United States. Obama's creation of DACA, Deferred Deportation, under the program called Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, was emblematic of his way of using the executive branch control of immigration enforcement to adopt overt policies of non-enforcement. When the Trump administration in 2017 signaled an intent to end these policies and begin to remove illegal aliens rather than make a deal to create a path to citizenship for them, the reaction on the Democrat Party's progressive left was to resist. Just like resistance was the watchword for pretty much every change in federal policy sought to be implemented by President Trump in his first term. And I'm going to pause there just to note that there's a reason why the Democrats are compelled to resist the deportation of these tens of millions of illegal migrant third world invaders. These third world invaders are the Democrats' new and only political constituency. Americans will not vote for Democrats anymore. Certainly they won't vote for their policies. And Democrats have been kept in power by generations worth of election rigging in one form or another that is step by step being dismantled by Trump. Even if these illegal migrants, third world invaders of our nation, don't actually vote, and we know they do. We know they're registered to vote in states like California and Massachusetts that hands them out driver's licenses, documents them, by the way, makes them documented illegal migrants now. How do we pay for all this? It's an oldie thing.
Yes, this is why I switched to injection-free weight loss.
I was eating healthy, working out every day, and nothing would budge. I had lost, I think, 22 or 23 pounds at this point.
I noticed that my weight was really starting to creep up, and I just wasn't happy with the way that I looked. I had lost around 20 pounds.
Diet, exercise, I felt like I had tried everything. Finally, I stumbled across hers and thought, what do I have to lose? I have lost so far just over 35 pounds.
Weight Loss by Hers offers access to oral medication kits. Simple, all-in pricing. Ongoing care included at no extra cost. Free shipping right to your door if prescribed. Through Hers, your weight loss plan is personalized to your goals. Plus, you get access to unlimited messaging with a licensed medical provider. No insurance required, no in-person visit, 100% online. Take the free assessment to get started today.
Eligible for all forms of government services, But they hand out these driver's licenses and they register them to vote at the same time. And then what? We're just supposed to trust these illegal migrants to not send in the ballots that are mailed to them by the millions? We're not supposed to understand that the Democrats engage in ballot harvesting in these communities where they gather up all these mailed ballots and vote them on behalf of the illegal migrants? That's one of the many ways the Democrats cheat their way into power. But even if the illegal migrants were not actually voting or allowing others to vote on their behalf, their mere physical presence in the U.S. gets counted in the census towards the apportionment of House seats and gives the Democrats 20 to 30 House seats they would not normally have. Now Trump is simultaneously deporting millions of these third world illegal migrants, so they're not available to be counted on the census, and fighting to change the census practice and have the Supreme Court acknowledge that the census is intended for purposes of the allocation of political power to count only American citizens, not third world migrants. So that's another leg out of the stool being taken away by Trump to the detriment of the Democrats. Then, of course, we have the redistricting that's already happening, has been happening for weeks and months, where traditionally Democrat districts are getting annihilated simply by Republican state legislatures redistricting their states. Jasmine Crockett, the always painful to observe Jasmine Crockett, got obliterated out of her congressional district. Texas just eliminated the entire district, or more accurately, redefined the district so she has no hope of winning there, that it's going to go to some other political candidate. This is what the legislatures are allowed to do. In blue states, the legislatures gerrymander politically out Republicans, and in red states, the legislatures gerrymander politically out Democrats. So, now, of course, yesterday we heard all about the Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act has been used as a club by the Democrats for generations to wrongfully compel the creation of majority-minority districts under the doctrine of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, Section 2. But that statute literally says nothing about creating majority-minority districts. It says nothing about concentrating the political power of Black Americans in preference or at the cost of diluting the political power of white Americans. The Voting Rights Act says nothing of the sort. It's the federal courts, the unelected, black-robed, tyrannical, inferior federal district trial courts that have been mandating these heinous, racist rigging of our democracy to favor Democrat political candidates and give them 20 to 30 congressional seats they would not otherwise have. After yesterday's oral arguments before the Supreme Court, it seems pretty obvious SCOTUS is not going to allow this racist racist political activism to continue, this rigging of the elections based on race to continue. Collectively, the Democrats are looking at losing something on the order of 60 to 90 to 100 congressional seats, reflecting the fact that the Democrat Party is simply no longer a viable political party in America, which should shock nobody who sees what they do. The party of the trans, the party of the reading of PDF material to children by men dressed as women in school libraries. The party of the mutilation of children in a demonic effort to change their gender, which obviously can't happen. Their assassination of Charlie Kirk, their attempted assassination of President Trump, the years they spent when they were in full control of social media, canceling their political opponents from social and professional life. These are demons. These are monsters. These are a cancer in our American body politic. And Americans are rightly rejecting them. And now Trump is taking away the electioneering that falsely, artificially kept these Democrats in power, and they see their demise coming. And of course, the deportations are a big part of that demise. If Trump can clear out the only people who the Democrats believe might still vote for them, illegal migrant third world invaders, the Democrats literally have nothing left. And right now, with those people in the country, they're polling under 25% approval rating. That's pretty bad, and it's about to get a lot worse. So the Democrats are waking up every morning, looking in the mirror, and it's like a reverse Dorian Gray. They're just collapsing into a decrepit, useless, unwanted political party going into finally its grave, its political grave. All right. I didn't expect to go into that kind of rant, but there we are. Let's pop this back up and jump back into Shipwreck Screw's column here. Let's see. But what Trump 2.0 is facing is dramatically different than simple non-cooperation policies that were put in place by Democrat governors and mayors in 2017. Releasing individuals from state custody rather than turn them over to ICE for deportation is fundamentally different from directing state and local law enforcement to not respond to unlawful activity by the populace in response to efforts by federal officers to enforce the law. Trump 2.0 is facing the consequences of an invasion by millions, tens of millions, scores of millions of illegal aliens from all around the world who the Biden administration simply opened the gates for. This is an unprecedented factual situation, but at the same time, it is being met with a never-before-seen official conduct by state and local officials to either interfere with enforcement, impeding is also a federal crime, impeding immigration authorities, or adopt policies that assist the populace in interfering with enforcement of federal law. The fundamental principle that the Trump administration must drive home is simple. The residents of Portland, Chicago, New York, California, Oregon, Washington, etc., do not have veto power over the federal government's enforcement of federal law. I think we settled that in the Civil War, didn't we? The Congress of the United States has passed laws regarding immigration procedures and how illegal aliens found in the United States are to be removed. The Congress has given near plenary powers to the executive branch in devising the policies and processes by which those responsibilities are to be performed. When state and local governments interfere, you end up here. 10 U.S.C. Section 252, which is one of the provisions of what we commonly call the Insurrection Act. 10 U.S.C. Section 252, a modern federal statute, reads, use of militia and armed forces to enforce federal law. Whenever the president considers that unlawful obstructions, combinations of assemblages, or rebellion against the authority of the United States make it impracticable to enforce the laws of the United States in any state, by the ordinary course of judicial proceedings, he may call into federal service such of the militia of any state and use such of the armed forces, that's the full-time military, as he considers necessary to enforce those laws or to suppress the rebellion. Shipwreck Crew then quotes again, obstructions, combinations of assemblages, or rebellion against the authority of the United States. He writes, that is quite a distance short of an insurrection against the federal government. What it recognizes is facts on the ground that state and local authorities are not capable of or are unwilling to maintain an environment in their communities where the federal government is able to enforce federal law. That is the extent of the justification required for the president to impose the conditions under which federal law can be enforced. It does not mean taking over policing via the military. A second statutory provision that sometimes gets more attention is 10 U.S.C. Section 253, the next section after 252, of course, which reads, interference with state and federal law. Quoting that statute now, the president, by using the militia or the armed forces, or both, or by any other means, shall take such measures as he considers necessary to suppress in a state any insurrection, domestic violence, unlawful combination, or conspiracy, if it so hinders the execution of the laws of that state and of the United States within the state, then any part or class of its people is deprived of a right, privilege, immunity, or protection named in the Constitution and secured by law, and the constituted authorities of that state are unable, fail, or refuse to protect that right, privilege, or immunity, or to give that protection. By the way, why is this not implemented? This is me asking now. Why is this not implemented to protect every American's Second Amendment rights? Are those not rights named in the Constitution? It seems like they are. Or subsection 2 of section 253, or let's see, use such measures as the president considers necessary to suppress any insurrection, domestic violence, if it opposes or obstructs the execution of the laws of the United States, or impedes the course of justice under the laws. That is explicitly what all these Antifa protests are. They're explicitly taking place to obstruct ICE from carrying out their deportation mission. In any situation covered by Clause 1, Section 253 continues, the state shall be considered to have denied the equal protection of the laws secured by the Constitution, and of course, equal protection of the laws as a principle is guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. Shipwreck Crew now writes, the provision at issue in the current standoff between the states, cities, and the Trump administration is subsection 2. The president shall take such measures as he considers necessary. There's no second guessing that. It's whatever measures the president considers necessary to suppress domestic violence, unlawful combination, or conspiracy if it opposes or obstructs the execution of the laws of the United States. Doesn't have to make it impossible to execute the laws. Simply has to oppose or obstruct the execution of the laws of the federal government, like our immigration laws. Shipwrecked Crew writes, the import is that Congress has already considered how a president shall be allowed to respond to unlawful conduct by state or local officials that interferes with federal law enforcement. There is no exception written into the statutes for demonstrations given support either officially or tacitly by state and local politicians of the opposition party. There is no 10th Amendment protection for this. There is no exception in either Section 252 or 53 for the states of Illinois or Oregon or the cities of Chicago or Portland to enter into any combination with protest organizers who use violence or otherwise oppose and obstruct DHS and ICE in carrying out the congressionally directed law for deporting illegal aliens. And with that, let me catch up on the super chats here. See, we got a couple. A new member! Awesome! More here just became a member. Members only, the bonus part of today's show, which happens immediately after this open access show. And Sandra Estes, $10. I'm hungover from having a shot of Jack every time Katanji didn't understand something yesterday. That was a lot of fun. I'm glad it wasn't a real drinking game. I wouldn't have been able to do what I needed to do today
But it is obvious, I think, it was obvious to me that Ketanji Jackson has been told that she says, I don't understand a lot. She must have been shown the meme where they stitched together like 8 minutes of her just saying, I don't understand in various oral arguments. So she's been trained to use euphemisms, alternatives for that phrase, like it's not clear to me, or could you explain, or anything other than I don't understand. But she got so flustered yesterday in the Voting Rights Act oral argument that she finally broke down. She finally broke down in a highly emotional state and started saying, I don't understand, I don't understand. Using the phrase whose name must not be spoken. And we got another new member. I'd rather be skiing. So glad to have you here, my friend. Thank you for becoming a member and supporting this channel. I really appreciate it. All right, back to Shipwrights Group. The application of Section Insurrection Act Sections 252 and 253 to these obstructionist states. He writes, the process begins after arrest. Steps or unlawful combinations taken in advance of arrest that interfere with those arrests are obstructing the execution of federal law. It is entirely appropriate for the federal government to arrest state and local officials involved in these efforts. Authorizing, approving, planning, assisting, etc. Passive resistance is not doing nothing, it is still resistance and therefore obstructive behavior. Presidents have expressly invoked the Insurrection Act statutes 30 times in the country's history. Remember, Trump's only president of 47. So that means more than half, almost 3/4 of the presidents have invoked the Insurrection Act. Some were in response to general lawlessness of the population that was beyond the ability of state and local officials to contain. And he lists a bunch of examples here. This is great. I love this bulleted list. Examples of prior historical uses of the Insurrection Act. First, the earliest was the invocation of a prior version of what later became the Insurrection Act in response to the Whiskey Rebellion in 1791. By the way, the Insurrection Act is only, 1800, what is it? I looked it up before we started. 1807. Oh, when Congress passed the Insurrection Act, this was in recent memory, right? The lifetime. It was within, 17 years of the Whiskey Rebellion in 1791. President Washington, the President Washington, about whom I guess a movie's coming out next year. I'm really excited about that. President George Washington marched 13,000 militia from Virginia, Maryland, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania into Western Pennsylvania. That would be the Appalachians, where I am right now. Look at the move here, into the Appalachians, but in Tennessee rather than Pennsylvania.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who pay attention to every little detail. The ones who fuss, tinker, and sweat the small stuff. Because you know the tiniest thing can make the biggest difference when it comes to keeping business moving. We get it. We're the same way, offering access to product experts to help you quickly and easily find what you need. So whatever your industry, you know you're always getting professional grade products. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
He marched 13,000 militia from Virginia, Maryland, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania into Western Pennsylvania to suppress a rebellion over the imposition of a federal tax on whiskey that wasn't in opposition to the authority of the United States as a whole, as District Judge April Perry in Chicago idiotically claimed last week was necessary. I added the idiotically. Shipwright Crew didn't say that. Second, President Jackson invoked it to quell the Nat Turner slave rebellion in 1831. Third, President Grant invoked it to suppress the Ku Klux Klan and enforced the Reconstruction Acts in the former Confederate states multiple times between 1871 and 1874. 4. President Cleveland sent federal troops to put down the Pullman Company strike by 4,000 railway workers in 1894. 5. President Eisenhower sent 1,000 active duty soldiers from the 101st Airborne in 1957 to enforce desegregation of Little Rock Central High School after the Arkansas governor used the Arkansas National Guard to keep 9 black students from attending. 6. President Kennedy in 1962 ordered various NP units of the 108th Cavalry Regiment and eventually a total of 13,000 military personnel to secure the campus of Ole Miss and suppress a violent protest by 2,500 people opposing desegregation of the school. 7. President Bush 41 used federalized National Guard in 1992 to suppress riots following the verdicts in the Rodney King case. But likely the biggest controversy over the possible invocation of the Insurrection Act is the fact that a president's decision to do so, and thus the presence of federally directed military forces in U.S. cities, has been determined by the Supreme Court to be almost entirely beyond the scope of judicial review. The foundational Supreme Court decision in Miller v. Mott, 1932, has already received much attention in the cases of Newsom v. Trump and Oregon v. Nome. These are 2 cases where Trump activated the state National Guards under Statute 12406, which I see here, Shipwreck Crew's about to get to. That's a different authority and a more conditional authority than the Insurrection Act. He writes here, but those cases involve the president's invocation of his authority under 10 U.S.C. Section 12406, not under the statutes of the Insurrection Act. Compare the following 2 passages in terms of the nature of discretion granted to the executive by Congress. And this is the point I made earlier. The President Trump is given much more unreviewable discretion under the Insurrection Act than he's given under 12406. For example, Section 12463, whenever the president is unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States, the president may call in the federal service members and units of the National Guard. Now, federal judge April Perry, a Biden appointee, only been a federal judge a couple of years, the one I called, not Shipwreck Crew, but I called an idiot. She's argued that this condition, president is unable to execute the laws, means that he is entirely unable. If he tries 1,000,000 times to enforce the law and he fails in all but one of those efforts, that means he's able to enforce the law. 1 out of 1,000,000 times is enough for April Perry to say, no, the president can clearly still enforce the law. He can fail 999,999 times out of 1,000,000. But according to federal judge April Perry, Biden appointee class of 2023, I believe, that means the president is able to enforce the law. And when it comes to the condition of using the regular forces to execute the law, if he's unable to enforce the law with the regular forces, she interprets that, the same feckless, idiotic judge, April Perry, interprets that regular forces condition to mean not the regular federal authorities like ICE or DHS or Federal Protective Services or the U.S. Marshals or the FBI or the Capitol Police. No, in her mind, regular forces means the full-time professional U.S. military, the U.S. Army, the U.S. Navy, the U.S. Marine Corps, the U.S. Air Force, the Coast Guard, Space Force. In the mind of the feckless federal judge April Perry, Biden appointee, Trump would only be permitted under this statutory language to activate the National Guard if every member of the full-time U.S. military had first failed to subdue the insurrection. Then you can call out, no offense, guys, then Trump would be allowed to call out the weekend warriors. Does that make any sense? forces that have nuclear weapons at their disposal, if they fail, then you can call it this kind of language in the United States. That's given these feckless judges wiggle room to obstruct President Trump with TROs. But now when we look at the Insurrection Act, we see it's a lot less conditional, isn't it? It's not when the president is unable, that's a judgment call with the regular forces, that's subject to interpretation. In section 252 of the Insurrection Act, it says, when the president considers, he need merely consider. It doesn't have to be proven. It doesn't have to satisfy a federal judge. Congress wrote these words to authorize the president's federalization of a state National Guard whenever the president considers that unlawful obstructions, combinations, or assemblages or rebellion against the authority of the United States make it not unable, but impracticable to enforce the laws of the United States. And then section 253 of the Insurrection Act, the president, by using the militia or the armed forces or both by any other means, shall take such measures as he considers necessary. There is no room for judicial review here. It's whenever the president considers and the measures he considers necessary. In that U.S. Supreme Court case of okay, so Shipwright calls it two different names. He called it Miller v. Mott earlier up here. Miller v. Mott of 1932. I don't think that's correct. I think his second reference is correct here. Martin v. Mott. In fact, you know, let me just check it. I believe it's Martin v. Mott. Yeah, Martin v. Mott, 1827. Whoops. In Martin v. Mott, the Supreme Court held, quote, quoting the decision now, a free people are naturally jealous of the exercise of military power, and the power to call the militia into actual service is certainly felt to be one of no ordinary magnitude. But it is not a power which can be executed without a correspondent responsibility. It is, in its terms, a limited power. If it be a limited power, the question arises, by whom is the exigency to be judged of and decided? Is the president the sole and exclusive judge whether the exigency has arisen? Or is it to be considered as an open question? Everybody can have a controlling opinion. We, the Supreme Court, are all of opinion that the authority to decide whether the exigency has arisen belongs exclusively to the president, and that his decision is conclusive upon all other persons. We think that this construction necessarily results from the nature of the power itself, or from the manifest object, purpose, content, the act of Congress. Shipwreck Crew continues, the manifest object contemplated by the act of Congress is the obstruction of the execution of the laws of the United States. That is the avowed goal of elected officials such as mayors of Portland and Chicago and the governors of Oregon and Illinois. Every time Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson or Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker speaks out about protecting illegal aliens or opposing DHS ICE enforcement efforts, they only further make the case that they are obstructing the execution of federal laws requiring the deportation of illegal aliens. What I believe, Shipwreck Crew writes, what I believe the Trump administration has been doing since June when it launched its aggressive immigration enforcement efforts was to give these blue state governors and mayors the opportunity to establish the factual record that their purpose in managing the federal effort to immigration law is to frustrate its effectiveness. Had they cooperated or simply stayed out of the way, DHS and ICE would likely have been able to do their jobs, but their agitation of the public against the Trump administration's enforcement of existing law, combined with more more than simple non-participation by state and local forces when large numbers of protesters showed up in an effort to frustrate immigration efforts very likely results in the unlawful combination that is referred to in sections 252 and 253 of the Insurrection Act. All right, man, great work. Great work, Shipwreck Crew. Check them out on Substack and, of course, on X as well. Let's see, here he is on X. This is what his account looks like on X, at Shipwrecked Crew. Represented 91 January 6th clients. I said over 100, so I was close. 91. 22 years as a federal prosecutor prior to that. Does really good work. I'm a big fan. All right, let's see what we got for Super Chats. We're right at about, let's see, not quite an hour. If you have questions or comments you'd like me to address, they do need to be in the form of a $5 minimum Super Chat. And I'll wrap those up, and then we'll turn to the bonus part of today's show. Right now, all of you are watching this. The open access, whoops, not that, this. The open access component of today's show. But in a few minutes, we're going to switch over to the bonus show, which is for members only. It says bonus show right there in the thumbnail. And I think what we'll do for the bonus show is go through highlight some of the X social media posts that have the Democrats panicking, the lamentations of their women, as Trump the Barbarian might put it, about the Voting Rights Act and the upcoming Insurrection Act as well. Let's see, Mike, $10, Super Chat, says, off topic, but I read Immigrant said if the Ninth Circuit rules against her, she's going to immediately dissolve temporary restraining order number 1. Big error on not appealing the second one. I don't know how big an error it is. It depends on what the Ninth Circuit wants to do with it. You know, Trump can appeal it like that. It's not like they've waived the appeal. But yes, it would have been nice if they had crossed that T, dotted that I. Unless they have a good reason not to. If they have a good reason not to, I don't see it. Maybe they do. If they do, I don't know. It would have been nice to have them explain it unless they feel they're giving up something strategic through the explanation. Grimwolf, $5, says, could Trump use military court under the Insurrection Act to prosecute rather than the corrupt federal court system? That's a great question. It's not clear to me that he can't. It's not clear to me that he would not be able to do that. That he could use the military. Let's see. Let's go ahead and pull it back up. Let's see. The president, by using, can we see this? Can you guys see it? All right. Section 252 is here. Whenever the president considers that unlawful obstructions, etc., make it impracticable to enforce the laws of the U.S., he may call into federal service such of the militia of any state as he considers necessary to enforce those laws or to suppress the rebellion. Does using military courts, is that part of enforcing the law? I don't see why not. And then we get to section 253. The president shall take such measures as he considers necessary to suppress any insurrection, domestic violence. Well, what are any measures necessary? Measures he considers necessary. Could the president say, well, I consider it necessary? These local courts are just kicking these people loose. They're not seeing that they're prosecuted. They're not seeing that they're prevented from opposing or obstructing the executional laws of the United States. And since the local courts aren't doing that, I'm going to use the military courts to do it. I think Trump should definitely do that, and then let them appeal it. Let them appeal it to the federal courts and work our way back up to SCOTUS. I think that would be a party to watch. All right, So I'm caught up on the super chats for this, the main part of the show, which means I'm going to transition now over to the bonus part of the show. Let me get that ready to go. We actually launched that even as we're closing this up. Get that all ready. Play a little background music there for everybody while I'm arranging everything. Here we go. All right. My cool music is running. The bonus show is now up and live, so I'll see you all. Remember, link is in the description. It's only 16 cents a day, folks. $5 a month to be a member. If that's not possible, then you might consider at least subscribing on YouTube. Get us to 256,000 is the next big milestone. And for everybody else who's is a member or wants to be a member, join us for the bonus show. I'll see you all there. Until then, I remain attorney Andrew Branca for the Andrew Branca Show. Stay safe.
At Phillips Chevrolet, we make car buying fast and easy. When we shop with us, you'll have one dedicated, non-commissioned salesperson in Frankfort, Lansing, and Bradley, or online at phillipschevy.com.
Thank you very much. I was just dealing with people from the Middle East, Arab people and other people on the potential peace deal for the Middle East. Peace for the Middle East, that's a beautiful phrase, and we hope it's going to come true, but it's very close. And they're doing very well. We have a great team over there, great negotiators, and they're unfortunately great negotiators on the other side also. But it's something I think that will happen, got a good chance of happening. I may go there sometime toward the end of the week, maybe on Sunday, actually, and we'll see. But there's a very good chance that negotiations are going along very well. We're dealing with Hamas and many of the countries. As you know, we have all of the Muslim countries are included, all of the Arab countries are included, very rich countries and some that are not so rich, but just about everybody's included. It's never happened before. Nothing like that's happened before. And our final negotiation, as you know, is with Hamas. And it seems to be going well. So we'll let you know. If that's the case, we'll be leaving probably on Sunday, maybe Saturday, maybe a little later than Saturday evening, but that seems to be our schedule. It should be clear to all Americans that we have a very serious left-wing terror threat in our country. Radicals associated with the domestic terror group Antifa that you've heard a lot about lately, and I've heard a lot about them for 10 years. And other far-left extremists have been carrying out a campaign of violence against ICE agents and other officials charged with enforcing federal law. In Chicago, anarchists have surveilled at least 4 local ICE facilities and posted diagrams of the buildings online, meaning nothing but bad, accompanied by photos of specific ICE agents that they're targeting, one in particular who's a top person and a great patriot. In July, approximately a dozen Antifa-aligned militants stormed the ICE facility in Texas and then lured officers out of the building before firing dozens of rounds at police. They were crazy, frankly, shooting one Texas officer in the neck. And in Portland, Oregon, Antifa thugs have repeatedly attacked our officers and laid siege to federal property in an attempt to violently stop the execution of federal law. Everything we're doing is very lawful. What they're doing is not lawful. And what the governor and the mayor of, as an example, you could say of Portland, and you can say certainly of Chicago. It's not lawful what they're doing. They have to be very careful. In addition, 2 weeks ago, radical left terrorists in Dallas conducted a sniper attack on a local ICE facility, killing 2 people and leaving behind a note that read, "Hopefully this will give ICE agents some real terror." That's bad. This attack came the very same month that Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a far-left extremist who inscribed the words, "Hey fascist, catch," meaning catch the bullet, onto the bullet shelf itself. The epidemic of left-wing violence and Antifa-inspired terror has been escalating for nearly a decade. At universities, Antifa has organized riotous mobs to attack campus speakers. I see it all the time. And these are agitators, anarchists, and they're paid. And you'll find that out. You'll be finding it out very soon. You should see what we have on these people. These are bad people. These are people that want to destroy our country. We're not going to let it happen. They've used armed gangs to assault local police in cities nationwide, and they've attacked journalists reporting on their crimes. So the journalists that report on their crimes, don't worry, you're very safe. I hope that's not going to turn you around, but they have been very threatening to people, but we're going to be very threatening to them, far more threatening to them than they ever were with us, and that includes the people that fund them. Probably some of the people I know, some of the people I dine with, but if they do, they're in deep trouble. So we're going to be looking very strongly at the people that are funding these operations. When you see the signs, and they're all made out of a beautiful, beautiful paper, beautiful, nice, stiff, very expensive paper, with beautiful wood handles, all the same color. They come from very expensive printing machines. These are not people that write out their signs in a basement that believe in something. These are paid anarchists. At least 3 of these courageous journalists have personally been victims of Antifa attacks. Andy Ngo has been repeatedly beaten by Antifa thugs for his work in crew. Andy is a very serious person too, I have to tell you. Been watching him for a long time. It's Andy here. That's what I thought. Hello, Andy. I thought that was you. You're looking better than you do out on the streets, huh? You look much better. It's nice to have you. You feel a little safer here, I think, man. Well, not that safe, because you have to worry about that. But thank you very much. Andy Ngo has been repeatedly beaten by Antifa, and including one assault that left him with a brain.
All right, folks. Or it's a suggestion via Discord.
You may get a little excited when you shop at Burlington.
They have my favorite brand! It's like a whole new brand thought!
I'm saying so much!
Burlington saves you up to 60% off other retailers' prices every day. Will it be the low prices or the great brands? Burlington. Deals, brands. Wow, I told you so.
This is Buick. Now. Buick. Exceptional by design.
Get 0.9% APR on these 2025 Buick models. Plus, current eligible non-GM owners get up to $3,000 allowance on Encore GX.
Or it's a suggestion via Discord. Let's jump into it. Let's see where this video takes us, guys. It's coming from the channel Navy Signal.
Envigado, Colombia. U.S. naval intelligence has zeroed in on a threat that could spread across the region. A rusty garage sits on a forgotten industrial site flanked by unmarked trucks. Behind that unassuming door, 5 underground reactors hum day and night. Ruthless trade is underway between cartels in Colombia and Venezuela. A shipment destined for the crowded streets of the United States. For 3 months, the FBI and Colombian National Police have been tracking the trail. Shell companies, ghost trucks, encrypted money transfers. Every clue points to this moment. Today, an operation is launched to stop this threat once and for all. Can the U.S. military dismantle this criminal organization?
Okay, here's one of these.
Late? Or will Tren de Aragua make a deal and pump money into the market?
Yeah, guys, send me more of these.
I'll tell you the truth. At 2:05 a.m., October 8th, 2025, in the industrial outskirts of Envigado,
This
Colombia,
just happened.
the night was silent. Too silent. A single light flickered above a grimy auto garage, its steel door rattling in the warm wind. To any passerby, it looked like a workshop for trucks and a hidden tunnel leading to a nearby riverbank, an escape route for shipments bound for Venezuela. Even the electricity meters were hacked to conceal the energy drain of a chemical reactor farm. Every small detail screamed industrial precision, not chaos. This was no garage. It was a war machine disguised as a workshop, built to manufacture addiction by the ton.
Right.
And as the clock struck 2:15 a.m., the agents watching from the ridge knew if they didn't strike soon, another 2.3 tons of pure poison would vanish toward the Caribbean by dawn. The discovery in Envigado was only the opening note. Over the next 48 hours, October 8th to October 10th, 2025,
Bro, that
a
was last
scramble
week.
of analysis, phone taps, and satellite imagery pulled the rest of the map into focus. FBI analysts worked side by side with Policía Nacional cyber teams, tracing payment trails, GPS pings, and encrypted chat logs. Every breadcrumb pointed the same way. This was not local crime. It was an export machine.
Right.
Forensic accountants followed wire transfers into shell companies in Panama and Curacao. Phone records showed rendezvous coordinates. GPS telemetry placed a convoy leaving Envigado at 2:30 a.m. October 9th, heading east. CCTV from small ports recorded the same white box trucks turning up at an isolated landing on the Gulf of Korea 2 nights later. Intelligence analysts estimated the loading plan. One maritime shipment every 3 weeks, each carrying approximately 4,000 pounds, approximately 1,814 kilograms of finished product sealed in industrial crates. The implications were brutal. One such shipment, if it reached distribution networks intact, would translate to tens of millions of individual doses on U.S. streets. Intelligence.
Yeah, guys, listen. I just wrap up into this here. Here's the thing. We're supposed to believe that there are no heads of state that are absolutely involved in this. I mean, I would think that if you're running such a gigantic organization, specifically in a random country, then there are probably a lot of people on the team here. So even though a lot of these heads of state are being like, listen, we did everything we do with my election, et cetera, how can we believe it? Guys, I mean, it's like this is being ran in the United States of America. I would suspect that either someone is definitely on the tape, okay, or they just haven't done it. That makes any sense. Not at this scale. I'm not even sure anything at this scale would probably work well. Honestly, if you were to use too much electricity, I mean way too much, outside of the realm of utilizing electricity for regular home and household things, I can imagine you start to be looked at in a very odd way here. So again, there has to be someone getting money.
The route was organized with military precision. Night transits, decoy manifests, and a chain of local handlers waiting on Venezuelan shores, links to a branch of Tren de Aragua. U.S. Navy maritime surveillance confirmed 2 vessels on parallel courses off the Venezuelan coast, loitering on predictable windows when small boats could come alongside undetected. By early October 10th, there was no longer any doubt. What began as a garage in Envigado was a single node in a continental conveyor belt, a factory on land, and a highway across the sea. The question shifted from discovery to disruption. How to cut the line before the first 4,000-pound shipment vanished into the night? Would the Americans move fast enough, or watch a billion-dollar empire expand unchecked? At 1:30 a.m. on October 11th, 2025, the Envigado industrial area was foggy and silent. Only the hum of the generators betrayed life inside the gang garage. Then a whisper on the radio rang out. Go, go, go. In less than 5 seconds, darkness erupted. 3 coordinated units, the FBI hostage rescue team, the Colombian Police Special Operations Group, and U.S. Navy observers stationed offshore with SEALs, launched the attack with pinpoint precision. 52 armed agents converged on 3 sides. At 1:31 a.m., a shaped charge tore through the steel door like paper, and the first breaching team burst in. The silence was broken by 47 seconds of automatic gunfire. Inside, chaos and chemical fires intertwined. The The air was thick with the smell of ammonia and gunpowder. 15 cartel gunmen, some armed with AK-103s and Uzis, fired wildly from behind steel drums and chemical tanks through the smoke. A stray bullet punctured the reactor's steam line, a one-time hit.
Bro, understand what he just said. They fired wildly. Right? So telling you, and also pointing out the precision of the United States Department versus the lack of precision of these absolute deviants.
The explosion sent molten debris flying across the lab, incinerating shelves of precursor chemicals. A wall thermometer shattered as temperatures soared to 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit, 649 degrees Celsius. But the agents held their ground. Through the flames, they advanced in tight formation, chanting slogans over the din. One SEAL was hit by shrapnel and wounded in the arm, but refused to evacuate, covering his team as they made their way to the basement. The battle lasted only 7 minutes, but in that time, the agents fired more than 1,400 rounds. When the gunfire stopped, silence fell. Then came a shocking revelation. Behind a false wall, a cold concrete vault. Inside, 6,000 pounds of pure, stacked like glass bricks, wrapped in plastic, labeled auto filter. Its U.S. street value exceeds $480 million, enough for nearly 30 million doses, a figure roughly equivalent to the population of Texas.
Right.
Nearby, 5 men were found shackled, their skin burned from chemical exposure, forced to work to keep production going. As the last gunman fell and the smoke cleared, the scale became clear. The garage wasn't a lab. It was a battlefield disguised as a factory, capable of producing more than 120,000 pounds a year, a billion-dollar pipeline of poison hidden in plain sight. As dawn broke over Envigado, the code name of the operation echoed over the intercom. Site secured. The heart of the machine destroyed. They thought the battle was over inside that factory, but they were wrong. What happened next turned the Caribbean into a war zone. Don't look away. The truth is about to be revealed. At 3:02 a.m. on October 11th, 2025, the battle that began in Envigado turned east, toward the Caribbean. The garage was burning behind them, but the FBI's encrypted transmissions revealed worse. 2 ships were already offshore. Data recovered from seized phones showed coordinates in the Gulf of Paria, 35 nautical miles off the Venezuelan coast, where a deal was about to take place. On those ships, the last remaining link in the pipeline, floated more than 4,000 pounds of pure
complete security
steel
breakdown.
barrels, and about $80 million was to be traded. The U.S. Navy and Colombian Coast Guard had been monitoring the operation for hours. Off the coast of Venezuela, the USS Wichita, a littoral combat ship, and a Poseidon P-8A patrol aircraft tracked the gang's vessels using infrared. One was a rusted freighter called the San Miguel, escorted by 2 smaller speedboats carrying Tren de Aragua gunmen. Naval radar confirmed there were 12 armed men on board, with machine guns mounted on the bow. They were ready to fight for their billions of dollars. The gang had relied on the fog and darkness as cover. Instead, it became their trap. At 3:19 a.m., the seas were rough. A Navy MH-60R Seahawk helicopter flew low, its searchlight piercing the black waves. U.S. Navy, close! The gang's response was a hail of bullets, tracer bullets tracing red arcs across the water. The Seahawk listed sharply as its .50 caliber GAU-21 barreled forward. One of the gunboats caught fire, shells exploding in a storm of fire.
Yeah, they weren't gonna make it.
Below, 2 RHIB teams raced ahead at 45 knots, skimming the waves. The first team boarded the San Miguel under cover of gunfire. Grenades rolled across the deck, flashlight, smoke, screams. Within 8 minutes, the gang fighters were subdued. Inside the cargo hold, sailors found steel drums containing 2,100 pounds of
whole lot of
highly refined
craziness, guys.
methamphetamine, along with another 1,900 pounds in nearby floating tanks. Cargo the crew had attempted to dump overboard to destroy the evidence. By 3:47
that was
a.m.,
gonna work,
it was
bro.
all over. The cargo ship burned silently on the horizon as dawn began to break. 17 cartel members were arrested, and more than $350 million were recovered from the sea. A secret raid in Colombia turned into a full-scale naval confrontation, one that proved one thing: even in the middle of the ocean, there is nowhere to hide. By October 12th,
Hold on, wait. So I've definitely seen that footage. For everyone has seen that footage. Right? The unclassified footage, specifically of that boat being absolutely obliterated, right? And this is the story of it, guys. Listen, I love all right, like the level of like detail, all right, that what happened behind the scenes for that to happen, and that's what we're covering now. We're basically hearing the story of the behind the scenes of that super viral footage that's moving around and around. I know they're going to keep doing it, right? There's just too much money in it. There's too many people that are involved. Guys, I know they're going to keep doing it. But I don't know if they're going to continue doing more. I don't think so. I think we have officially locked things down.
In 25, the fires had cooled, but the shockwaves were only beginning. The Envigado factory lay in ruins. The San Miguel freighter smoldered beneath the Caribbean dawn, and the operation survivors sat in handcuffs aboard the USS Wichita. For the FBI and Colombian authorities, this was not just a victory. It was a revelation. Inside waterproof drives seized from the ship's control room were over 2.4 terabytes of encrypted data. When decrypted in the Bureau's Miami field office, the files exposed a global network, 51 offshore accounts, 7 shell corporations, and transfers exceeding $93 million routed through banks in Panama, Curacao, and Hong Kong. Intelligence linked the Platinum each capable of producing $400 million worth of had they not been stopped, this alliance could have generated nearly $5 billion annually, rivaling the GDP of small nations. Made figures and forensic charts, which are the stories strong artists. The 5 rescue workers, victims of forced labor, told agents they were trafficked across borders. Paid less than $15 a week to handle lethal chemicals without protection. One man's hands had been burned down to the bone handling that court. Their testimonies and evidence into outrage. By October 15th, the U.S. Colombian forces launched follow-up raids, freezing more than 70 bank accounts and seizing 9 vessels linked to the smuggling corridor. The president of Colombia called the operation a turning point against Metro disguised as Congress. The United States, message was clear and cold. The war on terror had entered a new phase. The cartels were no longer civilians. They were industrial sections, police, evidence, and laboratories. And as the waves rolled back, as dawn rose over the Caribbean, so still parallel the charmed language of San Miguel. The sea, once again, carried the faint shiver of oil and ash. Traces of battle that ended one empire and exposed another. For the FBI, the Colombian Policía Nacional, and the U.S. Navy, Operation Silent Harbor will be remembered not just for the use of ironic destroy, but for the truth it revealed. The war has evolved into an industrial multinational conflict all across borders, streets, and oceans. In less than a week, the task force that dismantled a billion-dollar syndicate seized over 10,000 pounds of high purity, rescued human captives, and uncovered a financial network spanning 3 continents. Yet behind those statistics lays deeper. A warning. The enemy no longer wore gang tattoos or hidden jungles. They operated in border routes, disguised as logistics companies, with accountants instead of government. Their laboratories were cleaner than hospitals. Their profits larger than oil exports. America's fight against this new cartel order will not be measured in arrests or seizures alone, but in vigilance. And the courage to act before the next shipment left port, before the next garage became a factory. The Clan del Golfo and Tren de Aragua believed the ocean would protect them. Instead, every day. Big video was on fire. It was duty fulfilled. The kind of duty that causes sleep, that leaves scars, but saves lives thousands of miles away. And as the sun climbed higher over the Caribbean horizon, one truth lingered among the smoke inside us. The ocean remembers who its was, and who it's there. If you believe America must never close its eyes to threats that rise from the sea, then stand with us. And share and keep this story alive. Because there will be truth that leads the way to that's not it's not that, right? The people who are you know, like nobody. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that is bigger than look how big that is. It's like it's hitting this spine. That's got to plug you up in that else come out. Like 2001.
I'm surprised that someone has found a way.
Remember that video? He died from that. Because he ripped off his clothes, and then that horse put all that
but this year,
there's a horrible infection. Yeah, but
you are then going and creating like legitimate, like the best armed militias you possibly can find on earth.
He was an amateur. It's probably his first time for the cheap to
protect their
this
assets.
dude, right?
There are a whole lot of like legitimate people.
This dude's floating around for sources and finding it.
Again, you guys have seen Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
there are a lot of legitimate people who just suck that do this because of the amount of money that's involved. That's just a reality. It's too much money. But what can we do about that? Listen, if they are sending the votes, I don't know about the suffering. If that's a thing, because that actually, for me personally, sounds more realistic than the big shipments actually being done in a way that could be seen from any type of like surveillance aircraft and things like that. Because I suspect that things are being done with submarines, specifically if they have the ability to control all the things before. I think the boat is probably the thing. That's the one that they're saying.
Maybe
makes it cool. It makes it so much the dude was in the fist. Yeah, he probably
did the fist around.
We don't need a fist to 10% of what's being shipped, let's say, to war.
He's a fist. See
what I'm saying here? That's just my opinion.
But that's probably get it because you already got it in there. That's the way to take it out. Right? You cut them open. And that's all it's trouble. You just go ahead and dismiss them. Yeah, this is
I can translate it because you
so when it comes to the ring thing, index thing, it's crazy. I'm going to service
charged.
That's probably what happened.
And power up with 760 horsepower. And step up with value that goes the distance. And Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
This comprehensive evaluation.
Today, I'm turning people to a healthy meal on the go. No, they never guess what it came from.
That's pretty good right there.
The first one is really good, very flavorful, very delicious. Very fresh. I'm surprised. Now, would you believe me if I told you everything you just ate?
It's up there with the restaurant.
Find us in over 2,000 locations across airports, hospitals, offices, and more. Visit farmersbridge.com to find a person near you. Farmers Bridge, good to go.
But these jeans made me look 30.
My fellow ladies, it's time to upgrade your closet with comfy jeans. Thoughtfully designed for seniors, they gently skim your body and give you the stretchiest waistband ever. Elastic waistband expands at 8 inches, soft like cloud, breathable through every inch. Feels weightless on your skin. Relax, loose fit flatters our body type, making you look slimmer and taller. No more stiff jeans that change the waist shape. We'll have the most dangerous job in the border war against the Mexican crime wave. Tonight, illegal smugglers try to flee from the police. We offer 45 days guarantee if you're not satisfied. 50% plus off. Shop today. The U.S. Border Patrol catch a group of illegal immigrants. The sheriff's SWAT team had to deal with an awkward standoff on a drugs run. They tell me to get off the phone
A 76-year-old man standing on his own property in Boylston, Oklahoma, attacked by the very officer who was supposed to protect him. We broke that story right here on this channel, and that video ended up being seen by over 1 million people. Now there's been a major update. That same officer who made the video is now criminally charged.
It's the capital of Arizona, situated on the U.S. border with Mexico.
It is much, much darker. So let's take a step back and go through what's happened since then and talk about what this means, not just for Mexico, but for police accountability in small
They're then
towns.
transported north in road vehicles to Phoenix before the smuggling gangs move into other
Let's
cities.
rewind to early 2024. Oilton is a
The
tiny
town
town, just over 1,000 people, tucked into Cook County, Oklahoma. It's the kind of place where everybody knows
Sergeant
everyone.
Monty
But on
Madrid
one
stationed
quiet
beside the
day,
highway
a
in South
76-year-old man named Willard Walbridge ended up in the news for all the wrong reasons. Footage surfaced showing Oilton Police Sergeant Joseph Fears, yes, that's his real name, confronting Walbridge outside his home. The situation escalated fast.
It doesn't take long before Monty gets a call that a colleague has pulled over a vehicle further up the road. Two suspected illegal immigrants being stopped. Between 2006 and 2009, Monty's unit has detained more than 3,500 Mexicans who have entered the U.S. illegally. The men are taken in and face deportation because they're in a desperate state.
We had a group of them, and the guy was begging me to pull the and it was not something that you already had ordered. So,
totally different.
Okay.
Whether it's in the county
Yeah,
or not in the county,
if
it's
you
started
want
in the
that
city.
bad, and here we go through that.
That's where we are.
To be here.
I'm gonna be straight to the point.
Decades
I'm
ago.
gonna tell you one more time, step back. Step back.
Mexican smugglers take the opportunity to transport that illegal.
You got to know him?
As he patrols the highway, Monty spots a suspicious-looking vehicle.
Know that? Well, I'm dealing with another issue,
People smugglers or coyotes, as they call them, use SUVs like this as load vehicles.
How you doing? Get back in the van, please. Get back in the van.
Turn around.
Back in the van. Put your hands up right now, everybody. Put your hands up, Manos arriba now.
Monty discovers the vehicle is crammed full of people and calls for backup.
All right, 20, can you send me a couple units, please? Go for it.
As he checks the rest of the car, one of the passengers makes a run for it.
Hey! Sir, in the car now! 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 10-4. Hispanic male, dark shirt, blue jeans. We jumped the fence eastbound towards, probably towards the substation there.
On his own, and with the prospect of armed coyotes in the car, Manny attempts to secure the vehicle.
Any weapons? Any pistolas? No, nothing. Everybody hands right here on the, right here. Right there, all of you. Now. So we're stuck here waiting. I'm not gonna go chase the one guy, so.
With backup just minutes away, the driver takes the opportunity to escape.
520 King in the vehicle just took off on me.
514 King, 514 King,
Under threat of punishment from their Mexican crime bosses, the smugglers have to deliver their human cargo at whatever the cost. The suspected coyotes and illegals bail out of the SUV, and one deputy gives chase.
We're gonna go around the other side over here.
Manny and the other units drive to the other side of the scrubland.
520 King, approximately 4 to 5 rounds. There's something right here where you at.
Hey, am I know I spot? Perfect, that tree to talk to you, that's where I last saw him. Kind of hunkered down into there, and I don't know if he crossed the road. I don't think he did.
Manny is a professional hunter and uses his skills when tracking criminals in situations like this.
I've been a hunter all my life. I've hunted several North American animals. We have
Fears push the elderly man backwards, knocking him down right there on his own.
By a single footprint. One critical thing about it was a trip for a mile and a half where they find the whole dead. Out here, it's kind of the same thing. They recently raised disturbance to this ground, even if they're walking, is going to make a very noticeable impression that somebody's come through there.
The K9 team arrives to assist in the search. Manny worries the coyotes are so desperate they'll do anything to escape.
When these guys bail, what they have on their person, I don't know. I have no clue. They could have nothing. They could have handguns, stuff in their waistbands. I don't know. So absolutely, is the potential for it to be dangerous? Yes, absolutely. Is it dangerous? I don't know. So we're not
showing the video.
Trying to follow the scrubland, and then Manny gets a call that two suspects have been detained nearby.
Looking at the body cam footage of Bill from Oklahoma, where a police officer comes onto the man's property. He's a 76-year-old veteran who demands that the officer leave his property. The officer refuses and instead ends up using physical violence against this man. Identifying all the constitutional violations the officer was engaging in, especially considering his use of force against an elderly man, the location in which it occurred, during circumstances that Mr. Waltridge wasn't even posing a threat. Here are the full facts. That's why 76-year-old man, violence was used against him on his own property after the man had asked police
Human
officers.
smuggling is a lucrative business. Coyotes can earn their mafia bosses up to $60,000 per load vehicle.
Onto the very basic constitutional law. When police officers come onto your
Meanwhile,
property,
their colleagues have
they're
rounded up the remaining
really
people from the
only
car.
allowed to engage
All of them
in
suspected
a
illegal
non
immigrants.
They don't have a warrant, so they don't
The
have
men and women are lined up in the corridor
They
while
clearly did
suspected
not have
coyotes are
They're
put into a
not
separate
involved as a
room.
consensual encounter. They're not come on this guy's property.
Before they're interrogated, the arrested men are checked for injuries.
I'm just checking. We have a paramedic on the squad, however, I'm really key. And we're looking over his wounds, making sure that there's nothing that needs immediate medical attention. When they ran the barbed wire fence, he jumped over and of course,
myself up to believe that it was okay to be stupid or dumb.
8 people in total were arrested on smuggling charges. All will be reported back to Mexico.
When I was playing a character, wait, yeah, I mean, that's Jack. Stupid ass Jack.
U.S. border town of Nogales.
In a weird
Border
way,
separated from Mexico is a
sort of
15-foot
fooled
high
my mind
fence.
into believing that it wasn't
Nogales lies in
and
the state of
by the end of
Arizona, in the
the whole thing, I
southwest.
was like, hey, you know, I flushed so much out, I'm gonna
It's impossible to police the entire 2,000-mile
yeah,
long border.
right? You just find
Each
that
year, an
back
estimated
in the
1
ass
million
up.
people attempt to break into the U.S. from Mexico.
But Simple Jack thought he was smart. Rather didn't think he was retarded.
The Nogales Police Department is on the front line in its war against illegal immigrants. Officer Robert Thompson patrols this fence every day.
Right now, we're trying to got around the red zone. We're 5 miles outside the city. We're basically going to stop on a breaking point. We don't have to do that because
The US-Mexico barrier only covers 600 miles of land, so there are many gaps in the border that are open to exploitation.
this is pretty much it. A couple strands of barbed wire, legal barriers here. This is a prime example as to how our borders aren't really that secure. It's really easy to just walk it over, slide, climb through here, and boom, we're basically in the US at that point. I'll even demonstrate how easy it is to come in or even out of the US.
Mexican people smugglers, or coyotes as they're known, exploit these points in the border.
Human smuggling. It's a very profitable business around here. The coyote will charge almost $2,000-$3,000 per person. These people who are trying to come into the United States and make a better life for themselves definitely have to put their lives at the mercy of these coyotes. Throughout the whole journey, they're left without food, without water, they're left to die. Some of the younger women, or even the older ones, for that matter, they get sexually assaulted on the journey all the way up here. You know, highest price these people can pay, actually their life. You know, dropped off in the desert with no food, no water, and sexually assaulted all the way through. That's the price they pay for what they perceive to be freedom.
The border with Mexico runs through the desolate plains of Arizona. When the Nogales Police Department jurisdiction ends, the U.S. Border Patrol takes over. Part of the Department of Homeland Security, 17,500 agents are tasked with protecting the American frontier. With 9 years service behind him, Agent Jason Miller says it's not only illegal immigrants who are trying to break into the U.S.
We have caught a fair share of child molesters, murderers, and basically the type of people that I would want if I did. But there is also a fair share of those that are coming here to just look for work. It's not my job to differentiate between the two. It's my job to just apprehend them and hope that in the process of catching these people, we get some of these other guys also off the street. And that's where I take my satisfaction in my job. Is knowing that I can keep a murderer from coming into this country. I can keep a possible terrorist from working his way through this country.
In the process of their work, border agents face extreme force from these hardcore criminals. Agent Miller's colleagues have had lucky escapes in the past.
The smugglers had a sniper on the hillside across the way. Shot one of them in the leg. He fell, couldn't get to his radio, and even at that point, couldn't get out on his radio because of the terrain he was in. That's the kind of dangers that they face on a day-to-day basis. These guys are becoming more and more willing to protect their drugs or even their groups of aliens coming across.
Mexican traffickers use specific routes around this vast, open border area in an attempt to traffic drugs or smuggle people past the authorities. In response, the Border Patrol have placed 200 ground sensors on the known trails used by the crime networks. One of the sensors has just been triggered.
Right now, we're going to kind of go into the area and get to a place where we think they could be coming out. I mean, as you can see, it's a pretty dense area, so they could be coming out anywhere out of these mountains. But we're taking our chances here, and we're going to check out this trail and see if they come out to us.
The Tabby Bag. Shop now at Coach.com.
My fear was I wasn't going to be here to see my children grow.
Through doing online activity, I found out about Paramount.
That gave me hope, knowing that I have that chance. Visit noonemiss.org for more.
This series, you don't know.
Our tools give you the confidence to take
Everybody
on
knows
challenging
never
home
fool each other.
projects. with hundreds of corded and cordless tools and accessories.
Now
is ready to deliver.
Ray man, look at
Whatever
her.
you do, do
Not
it for
tight.
less. Only
Cats
the
are back to your
Harbor
car. Autistic. Shut. Not tight.
Phillips Chevrolet, we make
Yeah, John
carbine
Hank,
gasoline.
let's go.
When you shop
Oh,
with us,
yeah,
select
John
one
Baby,
dedicated
braces on his
guy
leg.
sales
So you
person.
trying to pin us up next to the ping-pong competition?
Or
That ain't
online
retired.
at Phillips
Like
Chevy.
a goddamn war hero. You know any retired war heroes? Top man.
The patrol get a call
Never
from their
got the
forward
retard.
scouts, 2 miles ahead.
You don't buy that?
Informing the
That Sean
group set
Patrick, that's
sensors
one I
up
understand.
for approach.
No? What for retard? When was it?
We're gonna walk back in quite a ways, and actually wait for the group to pass by, that way we can flank them, and we can keep them hopefully running back and running further north. The agents take their positions hiding in the scrub and ready themselves to apprehend the suspects. 45 minutes later, the group was spotted.
Siéntate. Siéntate.
The future, so you should pop this shit. Like they do in the future, so you should pop this shit. Like they do in the future, so you should pop this shit. Pop this shit. Pop this shit. Pop this shit. Like they do in the future, so you should pop this shit. Like they do in the future, so you should pop this shit. Like they do in the future, so you should pop this shit.
The suspects are rounded up. The group of 5 men left one spent 2 days working through the desert to make it to the US. They all entered the country illegally. In the past 10 years, an estimated 2,000 people have died attempting to enter the US illegally from Mexico. Most succumbed to heat stroke, dehydration, or hypothermia. Even if they make it to America, Agent Miller says his son, their ordeal is not involved.
They had been caught probably after the point they phone call from the stash house with some of the stash houses got actually horrid conditions. They keep dozens of people in a single room without any restroom, food, or water, basically until their family in Mexico pays them in order to release them. And they're unimportant. They really don't care. Just want to work. They see dollar signs. They don't care.
Most of the people caught today claim to be economic migrants who live a better life. Jesus has attempted this dangerous journey 2 times already.
American people, Mexico, the money they give is very, very low. The whole day you give $10. You give for nothing with $10. So basically, more you should pay. So that's why
As many Mexicans do make it over, farmers are split between the 2 countries. Jesus reveals he risked his life and broke the law as his wife and children were betrayed.
my wife needs me. Sorry, there's no family. Sometimes there's family that I think it's very hard to understand my situation.
For Jesus and his friends, they will not make it before the border. They will all be processed. If they have no criminal record, they will be deported back home to Mexico. Mexican drug gangs will use every method possible to smuggle narcotics into the USA. Along with trafficking shipments over the border, an estimated 10 million packages containing illegal narcotics passes through the shipping sector each year. Stopping this illegal contraband, as well as the billions of dollars of drug profits sent back to Mexico, is an impossible task. In Phoenix, the Maricopa County Sheriff's SWAT team was take hold of to tackle the system effectively. This morning we're going to be executing a narcotic search warrant for the U.S. Postal Service. What we have is individuals that are obviously involved in sending large amounts of marijuana to various locations on the East Coast.
Battling the dealers moving the drug packages around the U.S. is a dangerous task.
But in any narcotics case, you have weapons. And when you have weapons, you're looking at the potential of violence.
In response to this threat of violence, each operation is meticulously planned.
If this gate's unlocked, we won't worry about smashing it with the bear, but if it is, we're going to smash it with the bear. Dismount. The stack's going to come up the stairs onto the deck and go straight to the Arcadia door. We're going to use the breaching shotgun with the DD rounds to break that.
All right, Bravo 6 is going to be our radio channel. Let's go ahead and get kitted up, get ready to do that.
With temperatures well over 100 degrees, the team load into the bear and wait for the delivery to be made.
What are you worried about?
It's important that, relax and just joke around prior to the mission because it alleviates the stress of what we're about to do. And when it's about game time, everyone focuses, everyone concentrates. Hey guys, our target is at the location. The target is at the house. We're in a white t-shirt.
SWAT teams are highly approaching the target location. The operation will come as possible before mounting an attack.
We're gonna have to put up barrels in the fence in the front yard. So gas and two shots of fire. That's gonna leave very little time for us to get from the bay. Up on the porch, so we're gonna have our entry team on the outside of the streets. So it's just a matter of stepping out, stacking up, and getting up and being able to hit the house.
He wasn't gonna mess with the hoes, but Hunter got high. He was gonna take them all on the boat, but Hunter got high. He was first man to in his life, he had had to Hunter got high. Hunter got high. Hunter got high. He was gonna go visit his dad, but Hunter got high. He had a secret stash. We all know why. He never took time with the
Inspectors from the Postal Service alone to see how the operation went.
It's a big problem for us. Safety of our employees, safety of the integrity of the Postal Service, the postal system. We have our custody thanks to the County Sheriff's Office. We love working with their SWAT team. We work with them quite a bit. They support us in operations because we're trying to do it every day. So we rely on them quite a bit.
But we satisfied because we're using our force to justify it. It's a dangerous society. More criminals show up. They don't have a rule book that they have to follow. So we try to level that playing field with SWAT, with the tools that we have, the tools that we use, and the training that we use every day. So hopefully that will make it a little bit today. When we go to the houses, my God, we have to pray. Since it was arrested in Trisha marijuana, and the crazy back to Mexico.
He was making 80 G's a month. Hunter got high. Just brother ain't never done. Hunter got high. He got more. Got his ex-wife. Hunter got high. Hunter got high. His cousin was never a pimp, so Hunter got high. He had the best friends that money could buy, but Hunter got high. Just imagine if he wasn't rich and so damn wise. He had the customer's house. He was in a pound cake, disconnect his cameras and steal his money.
Make the strap cut in the background. Put it in the taxi. Jump the fence. Sometimes they hide it here.
Stash houses are used temporarily to store marijuana that's been smuggled over the border.
As you can see, the border's right here. You can see the fence line right here. It's easy for them to jump and bring it across. Yeah. The Mexican border is approximately 50 yards away. There's a jumping distance. They run it through, come in to the bottom of the house to the second floor or the basement. They bring it down here, stash it in here. They bring it up through the holes. This house has got many holes.
Officer Ortega finds evidence of marijuana backpacks used recently to transport drugs to the stash house.
They transport the bundles in this, and then they come here and make the second wrap with this clear plastic wrap. They wrap it again in smaller sizes or bigger sizes. They pack it, repack it. You see the contraband. They walk it out to the front door maybe, into a vehicle, and take it off and move it out to northern cities in Arizona, Tucson, Phoenix.
Each day across Nogales, drug mules attempt to ship packages to cities further north.
So I got this bio
On the other
test
side of
with my
town,
stomach has been
Officer
all
Andor
over.
Vasquez
I've been
has
feeling
called
so
one
good
mule
lately
red-handed.
after almost everything. I've tried other things, but nothing has worked, so I decided it was time to try this bag.
And she said yes.
I got my results back a few
Upon
weeks
searching
ago,
the
and they
bag,
basically give
I
me a
found
score of
between 10
tobacco,
and
some possible causes, a
approximately
risk of
pounds of marijuana.
soy, and
This
superfood,
girl right now
plus
is getting paid
personalized
between
supplement
$1,000 to
recommendations.
$100.
It's honestly
Just to take the
amazing how you
marijuana
get
from
all
here
of
to
this
Nogales to
I
Tucson
started
or
taking these
Phoenix, wherever
recommendations, and I already
specialized.
feel so much better. If you're having gut issues, definitely go check them out.
Back in Phoenix, the sheriff's SWAT team continued their relentless battle with the Mexican drug gangs. That evening, they're called in to assist with a warrant for a dangerous drug dealer.
About 5:30 this afternoon, I got contacted by Lieutenant Bailey from our Special Investigations Division on an ongoing wiretap. Apparently, they got a lot of conversation tonight about two specific houses where they were going to have a large quantity of cash and a large quantity of dope. Lieutenant Bailey said that there was a high violence potential of this residence, a lot of weapons and individuals that would probably fight us.
We go and see the surveillance footage that gathered from earlier that day.
Because these people do all kinds of shit to impress us. I was trying to outdo the last man. I was just a dummy trying to catch some respect, man. Hello, man. Would you be interested in some sexual positions and emotional investments? I'm not insane. In fact, I'm not rational. Would be asking your baby for the passion. Yo, nowadays everybody knows how to get fresh. Somebody give me a big yes. Gotta put some America, but she's so different. Now, you fucked up the game for my sake. With my hand on the front of my pants. If you close, if you don't make that change, you don't fly open that trunk and get the
The vehicle's headlights are switched off.
trying to find a balance. I'm trying to build a balance.
Shut the door.
DD backyard.
The team's tactics are aggressive to counter the potential threat of violence and quickly find their suspect.
children are finally let downstairs by one of the deputies. For the SWAT team, finding children in a drug dealer's house is never easy.
Well, making an entry on a house with kids is always a difficult process. I have kids myself, so I know they're caught in between this, the acts of their parents. We're talking about drugs, we're talking about weapons, and we have to come to the house and arrest their parents, and they're caught in the middle. We try our best to explain to the kids that nothing's going to happen, we're not here to hurt them, we're just here doing our job. But we encounter every single day.
The arrested man was later charged with misconduct involving a weapon and illegal possession of drugs. There are an estimated 12 million illegal immigrants residing in the US, over half of which are Mexican. And the ravines in this remote US border area are used daily by people wanting to sneak into America. Officer Robert Curtin has spent years policing this area and knows the smuggling routes intimately.
This is a small stream that they do use undocumented aliens and narcotics smugglers do use the natural conduit that's available. This particular stream that is being used as a type of illegal assignments out of this area. More likely, this area will be used later on today, later on this week. A lot of the areas down here provide perfect shelter. The vehicles show up to pick them up. If you notice, the landscape is primarily tan or gray, and any green spots that's available to try to
because they make most of their moves on the instinct and the sex is easily up. It's self-defense, so we're ready to get that your clocks in place.